Hey everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com. Today we're going to be doing a 1.5 month review on my 2015 Tiguan. This is episode 84 of the Humble Mechanic Podcast. So, you guys have been asking me to do a short-term review of the 2015 Tiguan we got. We purchased it on July 15, so that was about a month and a half ago. It currently has 2,342 miles on it, and about 1,100 or so of those miles was a trip up to Ohio to visit my good buddy Eric, the car guy. So I've had a lot of seat time in this Tiguan, both, to and from work, as well as an extended test drive. And there's a lot I like about the Tiguan. There's a few things that I'm not in love with about the Tiguan. But before we get into that, we got to talk about the sponsor of the day, which is Rain Eater Wiper Blades. Unless you live in a climate where it never rains, there's no snow, no dust, no pollen, you need good quality wiper blades. Wiper blades are also one of the easiest DIYs out there. So if you're looking for a great quality wiper blade, check out Rain Eater Wiper Blades at raineater.com. I would give you guys a quick demo of what they do, but this car's brand new, so I haven't replaced the wiper blades yet. Like I mentioned, I've had about a month and a half behind the wheel of the Tiguan. This is a vehicle we purchased trading in our Nissan Frontier. This is actually my wife's car. I still drive daily my 2005 Passat wagon, but I figured it would be kind of silly to do a Tiguan review from my Passat, so I took the Tiguan today. Let's start off with the things that I really like about the Tiguan. There's a lot of storage. There's storage in the front doors. There's a compartment just in front of my left knee. There is 2 compartments just forward of the gear selector. Also a really big glove box and a center console storage. You also have storage for cards right here as well as down below just forward of the shifter. And even a storage compartment right here on top of the dashboard, which would be an awesome place for vehicle gauges like the Beetle has, but I don't think that's going to be a modification that I'm going to do anytime soon. Speaking of modifications, the only modification so far is the auto up and auto down windows with the remote that I did a video on, as well as window tint. If you're looking through this camera, you can see back here that you're not seeing a whole heck of a lot, especially compared to what you see in my Passat. We have 35% on the front windows, 5% on the back, as well as the cargo compartment, and then the back window we only did 20 so that visibility was a little bit better out of the back window. One of the other things that I really like about the Tiguan is it's very familiar for me. I've driven Volkswagens for years, so everything makes sense to me. I get it. I like the bright white lighting of the instrument cluster as well as the radio. This is the first time I've ever had a car with HD radio, so this is really cool. A lot of this radio type stuff is very new for me as a daily driver or a car that I own, so that's really cool. As far as what it's like being behind the wheel, you're in a small SUV, so you're sitting more like you would be in a chair as compared to a car where your legs are a little bit more forward. Some people really like that, some people don't. It's just a function of the vehicle. I was able to find a pretty comfortable spot with where my seat's adjusted. Overall ride quality is pretty good. It's about what you'd expect out of a small SUV. It definitely doesn't handle like a GTI, but it also handles a lot better than something comparable in the class, which would be like a Honda CR-V. We actually had a Honda CR-V about 9 years ago, and my wife loved it. Storage was great, but it had no power, and I hated it for that. Power-wise, acceleration-wise, smoothness of transmission-wise, it's pretty good. There are some points where you'll feel a little bit of jerkiness in the transmission, especially stop-and-go traffic, kind of like I'm in now. Part of that is the transmission trying to predict what you're about to do. When you're in stop-and-go traffic and you're on and off the throttle, on and off the brake, the engine computer and transmission computer are trying to give you the best overall quality of drive, so sometimes that's interpreted wrong. When you've been on the brake for a while, the car thinks you're going to stop and you mash the gas. There's a little bit of awkwardness there, but that's really common across the brand as well. I like the steering wheel controls. I do say that I hit the buttons on the steering wheel quite a bit more than I would like to, and that usually turns on the Bluetooth voice command, which works all right. I haven't used it a ton. I've tested it a few times. I find it easier just to scroll through and pick the person that I want to call. I really only talk to a couple people while I'm driving anyway, so it's not a huge deal for me. If you are someone that is on the road a lot, that may be more of a priority for you than it is for me. I don't know if you just noticed that on and off the throttle thing where the car jerked a little bit. That's kind of what I'm experiencing. Power-wise, compared to other vehicles that I've driven in this class, which I have driven the CR-V and the Toyota RAV4, it's pretty good. It's a 2-liter turbo CCTA engine that the Passat, the CC, the GTI, Jetta GLIs have. So it's a very common engine. Throttle's pretty responsive. I've been averaging just under 30 miles per gallon. Most of that has been the 20-mile trip from my house to work. I was able to squeak 33 out at one point on that same from my house to work drive. I will tell you that I get quite a bit less miles per gallon on my way home, usually because I'm in a lot more hurry to get home than I am to get to work. I'm also a big user of cruise control, which definitely can impact your miles per gallon. At least for someone like me, it keeps me out of the throttle quite a bit. So overall drive quality wise, I think the Tiguan's good. I think it's as good or better than anything else I've driven in the class. Again, I have to keep telling myself, Charles, you're not driving a GTI. Charles, you're not driving a GTI. One more time, Charles, you are not driving a GTI. And when I think about it that way, it drives like you would expect. Now, there are a few things that I really think the Tiguan kind of falls short on, and none of them are really deal breakers. It's more of minor annoyances. First one is the backup camera. So this is a Tiguan S, but it's pretty well equipped, heated seats, and a backup camera, things that I didn't expect to get at the entry-level Tiguan. But the backup camera's really dark. It doesn't seem to matter what the ambient lighting is, the camera's really dark, and it is kind of hard to see. I've cleaned it a bunch, made sure that there's no plastic on it or anything like that, and it just seems to be a product of the RCD 510 coupled with that camera. I've checked 4 or 5 other Tiguans, and they all seem to be the same, so I don't think there's anything wrong with this Tiguan. That's just a design characteristic. Also, one thing that I've noticed is the trim around the shifter is a brushed aluminum type look, and it really tends to reflect sunlight back right into my face. The window tint has helped that tremendously, but I feel like if that were a matte finish or a darker color, then we could have avoided that situation. I've also noticed that even at this low of mileage, some of the interiors started to pill and make little white balls of fabric. It's not a big deal, and I've seen a lot of cloth interior Tiguans, and none of them have had tremendous wear on the interior. It's just something that kind of catches your eye because you got these white little pills all over your seats that you don't necessarily expect to see on a brand new car. Really, the only thing that would shy me away from owning a Tiguan and really liking the vehicle is the space. It's just a little too small. I've kind of used the 10% analogy with the Tiguan. So it's just 10% away from being a really great small SUV. If it was just 10% bigger and 10% more comfortable, this would be a home run vehicle. As far as working on the vehicle from a DIY standpoint or a maintenance standpoint, it's really one of the easier vehicles we have. The only thing that's kind of a challenge on the Tiguan is dealing with the belly pan, and if you've worked on Volkswagens before, you know that dealing with the belly pan is a challenge no matter what vehicle it is. Some are a lot easier than others, but this one does have a belly pan that's a little bit tricky to deal with. Luckily, the oil filter's on top, which makes it very easy to change. Air filter replacement, battery replacement, pollen filter replacement, all very easy. This does have an electronic parking brake, so if you do need to do rear brakes on the vehicle, you will need a scan tool in order to retract the pistons to change the pads. So that's one thing you want to be aware of if you're a DIYer. And I gotta say, overall, for the price, I think it's a pretty good buy. We're leasing this Tiguan at 2,000 miles. I'm still not sure whether or not we're going to be buying this vehicle out at the end of the lease. That's one of the great things about a lease, is at the end of your time frame, you just hand them the keys and go about your day. I feel like right now, if I had to make a decision, if mileage wasn't an issue and I wasn't close or over my mileage on my lease, I would probably trade it for something else. Don't let that make you shy away from buying a Tiguan. Again, I think it's a good quality vehicle. There's a lot I like about it, a lot I explained that I liked about it. I think it fits for a lot of people, especially if you want an SUV and a Volkswagen and can't afford a Touareg like me, or can't afford a Q5 and move up into the Audi brand, which, you know, like me, I think it's a pretty good vehicle to have. And my wife likes it. She's very comfortable in it. She likes being up higher, which is one of the reasons why we went with the Tiguan. I gotta say, I'm very critical and nitpicky of a lot of different things. For most people, they're generally not deal-breaking type things. Again, the only thing that I would say that's kind of a deal breaker for me and my family is gonna be the space. So I'm going to wrap it up there. That's my 1.5/2350 mile review of the 2015 Volkswagen Tiguan S. If you guys have any questions or comments, post it in the comments section below. Hey, if you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at humblemechanic.com. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the blog, and obviously here on YouTube. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. And obviously, we do not have a beer of the day because I am driving, and that would just be stupid.